All right, we have Brown Girl Boston, Andrea. She's going to give us some quick answers to a lot of things that a lot of people don't understand with ADOS. And would you like to give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Yes. So hello, everyone. My name is Andrea. I'm Afghan. I also go by Brown Girl Boston on Twitter. I'm Brown Girl from Boston on Instagram. Originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I currently reside in Anniston, Alabama. I am ADOS, Foundational Black American, Native Black American, whatever you like to call it. My family's been in this country for 400 years. So it's a lot of first for me. I'm a first generation college, student, so we'll get into that. I have my bachelor's and master's in social work, so I work alongside a lot of Black American students. I work at 3 HBCUs, and I know we're going to get into that as well. So that's the gist of me. Thank you so much, Clinton, for having me on your podcast, and I can't wait to, dive deep into, sharing the knowledge.
Yes. Explain, I understand what ADOS, the acronym, means, and Foundational Black American, what that means, and I fully understand that I am one, regardless of my advocacy or non-advocacy, I am one. And I do believe in ADOS and why reparations have to be now. And it's a debt owed, not to be, it's not a handout, it's owed.
Right. Exactly.
Can you explain to us what is ADOS?
So ADOS is American Descendants of Slavery, but I like to also say chattel slavery. So if your folks, your ancestors was forcefully brought over here to the United States of America and have endured 400 plus years of chattel slavery. So when we talk about chattel slavery, we're talking about abuse, we're talking about butt breaking, we're talking about having breeding farms, our folks working in the hot suns and tobacco rows and cotton, soybean, rice fields. So it depends on what geographical location, your folks was pretty much brought over here by, European Spaniards, whatever you like to call them. So that's what ADOS is, and a lot of times people get it confused because some people say African descendants of slaves. Yes, we understand that they came from West Africa, but if we do our DNA and try to trace back our lineage, you're going to see so many different countries of West Africa who pretty much conquered, and also too, I talked about breeding, who also was breeding and intermingling. So you're going to have all those different countries in your DNA, so you can't say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to say Nigeria and go live there because, okay, well, they accept you. There's 300 and plus, tribes there. They're going to ask you who like they ask here. So, that's what pretty much ADOS is.
So basically, we could none of us could really track our lineage back to exactly what tribe or whatever in any country in the biggest continent in the world, in Africa. Okay. So I noticed that when ADOS really started, the groundswell started coming up, the Democratic Party unfortunately started saying that we were bots. How do you feel about that?
I was very disgusted by that because whenever you are a disruptor, of course, people are going to say, well, you're a troll, you're a bot, or whatever the case is. But when people that look like us, also who probably have ADOS lineage, play into this whole role of, hey, I'm a Democrat, I can't rock with what they're saying because that's against, I always say the machine. It's a blatant disrespect in our face. And then they want us to consistently vote Democrat. You see what I'm saying? Because they want us to go, oh, yeah, we're going to give you your liberation. We're going to free you. But none of the Democrats thus far that I know of have said, you know what? ADOS, Foundational Black Americans, we owe them. We owe them a debt. But they'll say, hey, we're going to give gay folks reparations. We're going to, do immigration, open borders. We're going to advocate for everything else but ADOS. I have a problem with that. And I definitely have a problem with being a bot, and I'm not going to sit up here and be like, oh, I'm not a bot. I'm just going to tweet the information, do what I need to do, and tweet the data, tweet the articles. It's up to that person whether they're going to read it or not, but I'm not going to waste my time arguing with whether I'm a bot or not because I know the work that I'm putting in.
Okay, so when we say none of the Democratic candidates, except Marianne Williamson,
Right, exactly, her.
except her, have spoken about reparations. How do you feel about her and her not being allowed to be in certain debates? And now she even came out. I noticed the other day on the news. She even said that she's feel like she's being ostracized by the Democratic Party and they're being mean. And it's like the Conservative Party, the Republicans, treat her nice. What do you think that's from?
I think that's from a general sense that not rocking a boat. See, she's rocking a boat. She's being radical about her message and about her mission of, hey, this group over here has been old, and so she sees it. She's being actually authentic about it, transparent about it. People don't like when you rock the boat. They don't like when you speak truth to power. So people will find ways and loopholes of how to block you, whether, you're black, whether if you're white and you're an ally, or whether if you're an ally, period, right? So if you're speaking out against the machine or against the quote-unquote masses, they're like, hold up now, we got to find a way to shut you up. So of course we're going to block you in certain areas. Of course we're not going to invite you here. Or of course, always like to say, they're going to have the backroom deals and you're not even involved in it. So that's what I see happening with Marianne Williamson. But we just have to keep pushing the message, and we just have to pretty much just, help her with the advocacy instead of getting tired. I understand we're going to get tired, but that's where self-care is going to come in, and also self-preservation, because to me, this is do or die time. We're in the 400th year of, like I said, anniversary of slavery. Now is do or die time. We got too many people talking. We just have to start, putting the action plan and start doing.
Yeah, the article I was talking about was the L.A. Times was basically why she wasn't at the debate yesterday, which happened to be at an HBCU, and reparations was not even a talking point. How do you feel about that?
I have a problem with that. So I am an HBCU alum, also too, I consult at 3 HBCUs, so we're going to talk about that piece. People think, oh my God, it's what they call it, knowledge itself. You go to HBCU, like you are this avant-garde black person, like you're going to change the world. But a lot of times, as one of my friends had, said to me the other day when we were talking about it, a lot of times you kind of, are learning like white ideology, like white supremacy. Then you're dealing with the good old boy system, but in black face. Also, too, the landscape, the demographics are changing at HBCUs because it's quote-unquote they want to be more diverse. So we're seeing like a 30% or more, increase of like international students. Actually, if you want to say got in trouble, whatever the case is, I went to one of my HBCUs yesterday, and I noticed that in this particular HBCU at their business school, everyone was non-DOS. And I was like, hold up, this is a problem because when I see ADOS in certain spaces at HBCUs, they're not on the faculty. They're not running. They're not the dean or they're not the president. At this particular HBCU, the president is ADOS, but his stance is, hey, we are open to anyone who wants to come on campus and get an education there. And the problem I see, and I feel like they think that's reparations for us. And the problem I see when international students are enrolled into HBCUs, they don't know anything about ADOS, Black history, culture. They get more of attention, so they will break their neck. I have seen it. This is my personal opinion. I have seen situations happen in which they're like, "Oh my God, we got to raise, let's say $3,000 for this international student," but we got a student here domestically from, let's say, Alabama. It's like, okay, you got to pretty much sit out a semester because your financial aid ran out. So I think a lot of times they think that's reparations, and I do have a problem if you're having a debate at a historical black college or university and you don't talk about reparations, and HBCUs are part of that reparations program because the endowment is very low. That even the ADOS student enrollment is low. I have a big problem with that, and you shouldn't have had it at that setting. So that's how I feel about the whole reparations piece being excluded. And that was done on purpose, let's be honest, because at HBCUs, a lot of times they don't want you to rock the boat. You rock the boat, you're kind of out of there.
Yeah, I thought this was all coming from Tom Perez, the Democratic chair, because I just find that ironic that And I had noticed a tweet that you said, and it made me think about it, because I don't watch the debates because I understand that they're not really going to speak for reparations. I noticed that one of your tweets, you said the only foundational Black American that was at the debate yesterday couldn't even speak on reparations because his whole agenda has been the Democrats' whole agenda: immigration, LGBTQ, gun control, and they might throw some health stuff in there. But those are their like three main things: immigration, LGBTQ. I wanted to ask you about the people that say, well, since we ADOS, if it's no black agenda, if y'all ain't gonna do nothing for reparations, we gonna walk away. We ain't gonna vote 2020. And some of the people in the Democratic Party feel as though if we say that, then we're saying, okay, we just want Trump to win. What's your stance on that?
So my stance on that we just want Trump to win, is like, well, what have any of you 20 million thousand, candidates are putting on the table? And, pretty much we're tired of hearing that whole narrative, well, let the evils win. Trump is in there. And yeah, we know he's gotten, a lot of social programs. We know he's gotten pretty much the whole quote unquote middle class. We know all these things. And I think that's just another message to, a scare tactic to be like, oh, like ADOS, y'all got to get to the polls. So, of course, they may throw in a reparation here, throwing this, what's the one, universal income, or, hey, we're going to eradicate student loans. Because a lot of us are affected by student loans, but a lot of us are not. Because only like a small portion of us that are actually, college graduates. So I think it's a lot of scare tactics like, well, Trump is going to win. But what do we gain with Obama for 8 years? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do we gain from any other presidents if that served like a term or two that have actually helped ADOS propel forward? I can't say in my lifetime, and I'm 36 years old, that I can say, oh my God, yes, this enhanced my life, this policy enhanced my life. And what's more important is local politics, because they're the ones that's going to really affect you on a local level. And a lot of times we don't understand the electoral vote and the popular vote. So that's when we have to also start doing, I always say, do our Google, which is research, and really figure out, okay, which one is going to affect me even more. So I just think when people hear that, no vote, no agenda, they're like, oh, they pro-Trump. No, we're not pro-Trump. It's just a simple fact like, okay, we're going to have another term of a Democrat that's not going to do anything for us but give us a whole, woohoo, we're defeating the lesser evil. No, like, I think we're just tired of that whole narrative.
A lot of people say, I hear that you brought up President Obama. A lot of people say, well, he was the president for all Americans. He couldn't do nothing for black people. What do you got to say about that? I'm laughing because that we know from data, and we know that he did do specifically things for a specific group of people. And it's ironic that even the Congressional Black Caucus didn't want to talk to Obama towards the end of his presidency. How do you feel about the Congressional Black Caucus? Have they done us a disservice?
They have done a big disservice, to ADOS. And let me tell a quick story real quick. It's interesting you bring them up, because I remember being in undergrad school, one of my professors was like, oh, Andrea, you should look into being an intern. Now, mind you, I had applied and all this other stuff, but it just never settled with me, because I'm thinking, oh, they black like me. We get caught up with that too. Like, oh, they black like me. Like, we think that same way, whatever the case is. But, when I started learning about who's part of like the Congressional Black Caucus, doing more research, even looking into their districts, they are really heavily doing a disservice to their district and the folks that's in their district, and I have a big issue with that. Like I said, I live here in Alabama. If you look at certain parts of Alabama, like Lowndes County, they say Lowndes County is like the equivalent to a third world country. Very undeveloped, hookworms. You got sewers in the front, in the backyard. Very underfunded county. It's in the Black Belt, so of course a lot of black folks live in the Black Belt. It just don't cover Alabama. It covers like Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, the Carolinas, and stuff like that. So CBC they're just a figurehead for black folks, and then when I looked further, because I follow Yvette Carnell and Tone Talks, they were saying the person who do their like digital strategies, they're like from the islands or somewhere, and they just block everyone who's part of ADOS, and I have a big problem with that, because so if you're blocking me, then guess what? I'm gonna go ahead and tell my folks not to vote for you if you are part of a certain district. Also, too, is more like, hey, it's a swagger thing. Oh, we can talk this black talk, but, you're not going to say that to Nancy Pelosi. You're not going to say that to, your other white constituents. So I have a big problem with them. I had got invited to go to, I think they had a conference recently from one of my friends from grad school. I said, I'm going to pass tonight. So I told her why. And she's like, oh, but they're not like that. I'm like, honey, you don't do your research enough. They are like that, and so that's the problem I have with the CBC.
Okay, that's interesting, because they definitely, in my personal opinion, I agree with you that they're definitely in the way. And and as you stated earlier, all your skin folk are not your kinfolk.
Exactly.
So I know recently you had went to the Black Communities Conference in Durham, North Carolina. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I went to the Black Communities Conference in Durham. I actually spoke there. I was talking about first generation college students, but it was an amazing conference. The pros, it's like, oh yeah, cool. All these like dope American, Black Americans here. Some of them Pan-Africanists, which is cool. You got your own ideology. I love Durham. It's such a rich city for Black Americans. The history is just so amazing. I'm a history buff, even though I didn't major in it. And just Dr. Darity shut it down Wednesday. They should have just ended it after. Like, he shut it down about like reparations. And it's funny because a lot of talk of reparation was on a lot of the presentations and also two panel discussions that I attended. And one of them, the gentleman, he was from Baltimore, and he talked about reparations in the cannabis business. And he broke it down to the point, you have to have at least like $50,000 or more to have a legit cannabis license. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, how we've been shut out because of war on drugs. Also, too, a lot of our brothers have been mass incarcerated for nonviolent offense. And so he was saying, like, how can we, go to the government and, like, make policies around that, and also, too, let, these brothers out of jail. So it was a lot of talk around that cannabis piece, also, too, reparations. Now, Dr. Derry did an amazing job, and a classy job on, like, shutting down a lot of myths about the wealth gap. Because you hear people, I heard so many presentations like, yeah, like, if we can just, stick together, we can build wealth. And I'm like, y'all don't even have a clue on how that's not going to work. So when his presentation came on Wednesday, like, he broke it down to the point, people gave him a standing ovation. People's mouths was literally dropped, like, oh my God, I didn't know that. I know my homegirl I attended with, she didn't know, and I've been telling her for years, like, yo, we have been blocked out of so many opportunities. But the day before, we're hearing like, yeah, you can just go and apply for a venture capitalist and get all this funding, but not knowing that 0.2% of Black women, not even men included, Black women have only been funded from venture capitalists. He also talked about Black businesses, and I like how he did that because, Black Wall Street was also in Durham as well, and a lot of people don't know that. And I heard people like, well, if we revitalize Black Wall Street, we won't need folks. So I'm like, that was a golden era of entrepreneurship. Like, the 20s was the golden era of entrepreneurship, like, to the point, like, Booker T. Washington. And, you had a lot of different people who started, like, life insurance business, who started funeral homes, other Black businesses, because they didn't have a choice. You're talking about coming from Reconstruction. Also, too, you're talking about we're still in segregation, and then we're going to usher in Jim Crow. So he did a great job educating people. So that was a Black, communities conference. I think people should go. I think more ADOS people should go to present on their expertise and also keep pushing reparations, because a lot of it was foo-foo nonsense too, that we're like, okay, why do I need to know about this? And the sad part about it is not, and then on this note, there was a lot of Black women who had their doctorate or was doctoral students. And from what I know about, Black women, yes, we are the most, we like to boast on that. We're the most educated, this, that, and the other, but we're also two people's workforces. We're work mules. We also are the lowest paid on the totem pole. We're also like the first one to go. And then we work at these white conglomerate PWIs, and we're getting paid like $30,000, and we owe, let's say, six figures in student loan debt.
Yeah.
And then our health is being affected because we're trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to pay my debt on this $30,000 salary, and I got to do this research. So it's just a lot on the hamster wheel that we're on, but we think like, oh, well, if we do X, Y, and Z, we're going to get out of debt, or we're going to close the racial wealth gap.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of when you brought up the CBD thing, is that living in Pennsylvania, I actually know a farmer that grows medical marijuana, and he even explained to me, like, the laws that they got to follow are very, very strict. The distribution is monitored, so basically, we've been blackballed out of the distribution. So that's definitely a market that we can never get into. I'm glad you brought up Dr. Darity. A lot of people don't understand that he is an economist, and he is behind ADOS as well. Shout out to him. Shout out to Tone Talk. Shout out to Yvette Carnell. They definitely have inspired a bunch of people, and they are, in my eyes, national treasures. Can you explain to us? And I know Dr. Darity explained it before. Can you explain to us the difference between income and wealth?
Yes. So income is pretty much what you earn on your job, what you pretty much bring home for a paycheck. Wealth is what has been held in households, and also to what has been transferred to you. For instance, there's this thing that's going on that's called transferable wealth that white folks have been doing for eons. So while I'm going to say in school, so while you're in school, you're struggling, and then you look at let's say you at a PWI, get your graduate degree, and you're like, wow, how did my cohort member was able to get a house? Because that was the wealth that was passed down. I like to call it, and I know people going to be like, oh my God, I like to call it old slave money.
Yeah.
A lot of times this is old slave money that their, great, grandparent inherit from having human labor, aka slaves. And it's getting passed down generation after generation. That is wealth that's been held in their families. And I'm going to say 400 years plus. And they're continuously building this wealth through, let's say, their homes, home equity, different stocks and bonds, just, like I said, old wealth that they have. And so while you thinking, oh, I can do the same thing, your grandma is still living in the project in, let's say, Brooklyn, right? And what kind of wealth does she have? Like, she doesn't really have wealth. You make her like, oh, well, she got life insurance, but does her life insurance cover her burial? And when it comes to wealth, not many of us are going to receive that from our parents or our grandparents. Luckily for myself and my brother, like, my parents have, something set aside for us. And also, too, I can say this, my parents are baby boomers. They have helped my brother and I tremendously, even though we're grown folks, have our own families. But everyone doesn't have that setup. I'm not saying I'm going to get $1 million, but my parents said, hey, they moved from Alabama to Boston in the 70s, in which affirmative action was popping, and they was able to be like, let me set aside some money for my children, so just in case something happens. But white folks been having this wealth for years, and I think we only have 2.6% of the wealth. 2.6.
And that's according to the data.
Yes, that's according to the data. And if y'all like, what? Like, you can do your Google and go check that out according to the data.
Well, all these rappers got money, so we got money.
Right, and a lot of people don't understand this too, because I'm a big hip hop head, and we're gonna talk about that. So a lot of these rappers, you think they got money, it's control money. So if they say something like how I said on Twitter today, they're like, hold up, what? You said X, Y, and Z? I can take your money and your livelihood anytime. Same with the athletes. Why do you think they're so docile when it comes to certain issues? Why do y'all think they talk about reparations? And mind you, majority of their families still live below the poverty line. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times they rent their cars, they're renting everything, and we think, oh, you know what? It's a decadent veil, as Paul always talks about. But a lot of times we think, oh, I'm going to aspire to be the next hip hop mogul. The last hip hop mogul is what? Who? Diddy and like Jay-Z. And they about 50-something years old, even though they lied. They're about 50-something years old. So, you know, you thinking I'm going to be the next whoever, but it's all control money, which is very interesting within itself.
I'm gonna ask you why. This is two questions, real quick. Why do you think? And I'm not big on celebrities being part of a movement because if you look at any movement, even in the '60s when they were celebrities in the movement, they were basically like Muhammad Ali. He was an activist that just happened to box, but even the Nation of Islam was behind him. So you know his information was coming from Malcolm. His information was coming from Elijah. Even Harry Belafonte, you knew his information was coming from Martin Luther King. Why do you feel like the celebrities today, why they're so quiet when it comes to reparations?
I think because they feel like it's the mentality of some black people, I got mine, you got to get yours. They probably have been put in the back room and compromised by, listen, if you talk about these topics, and sometimes I feel like they have a whiteboard, you talk about these topics, you automatically going to get blackballed. For instance, I don't think he talked about reparations, but it was more so like, hey, this is a mistreatment in the NBA. Craig Hodges, he had got blackballed from, you know, Chicago Bulls in the league period. Mark, I can't think of the Muslim guy's name, you know, with him he's playing during, you know, the national anthem. So, you know, they probably made them as an example too, like, look, these are two examples of how it can go down. I didn't put Kaepernick because that's a different type of situation.
That's a whole different thing, and we probably
that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So I think those two were set for the example. So that's why, you know, celebrities like, I don't think I can talk about that. Because it's funny, because one of my favorite hip hop artists now, she's, you know, ADOS, she's on the come up. But I noticed too, she was like, oh, I want to give a shout out to Sudan, all these places. I'm like, yo, you live in North Carolina. Like, I have a big issue with that. And I remember, like, I had, like, said, this is a problem I have with her interview, but that's being a fan. See, I could be a fan of critique. If I'm a fan, I don't look at, I have like pretty much rose-colored glasses on, and I'm like, yo, that celebrity can't do no wrong. So, yeah it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we noticed from Twitter how Talib Kweli, he attacked Yvette Carnell, and then he started his anti-ADOS movement. And, you know, we know why, because his brother worked for Kamala Harris and all that stuff, and you know, we ain't even gonna give him too much airplay. However, but when we do talk about hip hop artists, I saw something today where Killer Mike was at with T.I. and David Banner, and Killer Mike gave a shout out to Tone Talks and gave a shout out to Yvette Carnell, but he still trusts Bernie Sanders.
I know, and I met Killer Mike, so let's talk about that real quick. So like I said, live in Alabama, and when I heard Tone and Yvette and Dr. Darity and Dr. Cosby was going to be in Birmingham, I actually went to the Angela Project conference, amazing conference. I went both days. Killer Mike showed up the second day, and I was like, oh my God, it was like, wow, this dude actually came, because I think they put like a call to action, like, hey, Killer Mike, you want to learn more? You know, come straight to me, come to Birmingham and learn. So he had learned a lot, and I had learned a lot from him as far as with his background, you know, his grandparents being from Tuskegee, him, you know, growing up in Atlanta, I think his dad, you know, the police were the cases, also too, his stance on certain things. So I was like, okay, so I'm like, well, why did you support Bernie? Like, why? But I think that is like him being a Bernie bro and the black bro. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh, I got a black bro, you know, that Jewish and that black connection, so we going to take it back to when I walk with King or whatever the case is. And I'm all like, Killer Mike is using the same old tired lines. And I'm like, I know that you learned from Yvette and Tone, but he is like, well, no one ain't going to tell me what to do, or he's afraid. So once again, it's going back to being compromised. He's afraid, and he feels like, oh, I got to use these same old tired lines because Bernie can probably end my career. And I think his the guy that's with him run the Jews, the white guy, he probably don't want to lose a white friend. Let's be honest. He doesn't want to lose his quote unquote wealth. He don't want to lose his crossover appeal. So, he has to have these talking points. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's almost offensive that a lot of times the Bernie supporters, the first thing they do is they say, well, he walked with Martin Luther King. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, everybody that was around Martin Luther King that time, during his time, they sold out. They started getting their butter biscuits and they kept it pushing.
Exactly.
But the ADOS conference is October 4th and 5th at St. Stephen Baptist Church, Louisville, Kentucky. That's 1018 South 15th Street. Will you be there?
I won't be there because I have entirely too much going on. Like I said, this is my second time seeing Dr. Darity. I saw that it's on in Birmingham. But I will, if there's live stream, I will definitely live stream it. I know some of my folks that I connected with via Twitter and, Facebook will be there. Are you going to be there?
No, because they sold out already.
Dang, okay. Somebody was offering a ticket, by the way, but I think one of my people got the ticket. So they already sold out. But I hope they live stream it because, I want to see what they're going to talk about. I know some parts are not going to be live streamed because a lot of stuff we do have to do in-house.
Yes.
A lot of stuff can't be out here in the street.
Exactly.
They can't be out here in the street.
And for more information on ADOS, you go to ADOS101.com.
Exactly. So go check it out. So, I will definitely be tuning into the live stream. I'm excited they're having a conference. People have a problem with it. No one cares. Like, y'all can have all types of Pan-African conferences. No one's not boo-hoo crying because you have that conference. You go ahead and have that conference. Let us have something, and I think it's about time we have something for folks who are speaking truth to power and that's not afraid to lose anything. What do we have to lose anyways? We don't really have anything.
You know what's crazy when you said that is that was the phrase that me and my cousin shared with each other. That was a Trump phrase. When he was trying to get votes before he became president, he specifically said to the African community, what do y'all have to lose by voting for me? And I think a lot of times we have got caught up with voting for party instead of policy because a lot of us, maybe my parents, I don't know how they vote because my mother always told me about voting. When you vote for somebody, that's private. You keep that to yourself. So I believe that a lot of times we always voted, historically we voted for the Democratic Party because we felt as though the civil rights movement and such and such. But I had heard something a couple times. A couple people said it to Michael Eric Dyson. I'm not going to say I'm not a big fan of his. I don't agree with everything Michael Eric Dyson said, but he said one thing that I knew that I agreed with, and he said fundamentally African Americans are conservative.
I was just going to say that. That's true. That's historically true because, Martin Luther King was a Republican. And his family for the bulk. If you think about it, let's look at the scope of African Americans. We're very conservative when it comes to a lot of stuff. We're very accepting. Also, too, we got to go back to black churches. If you go to church, whatever cases, I don't. It's pretty much like, hey, you got to love your neighbor. They could be beating you upside the head, ready to pull the burner out on you, to shoot you, whatever cases, but we got to turn that other cheek. We are conservative when it comes to a lot of things. So, he's right on that. And also, too, like I said, going back to Martin Luther King and his family, once upon a time, there was Republicans, and a lot of people cut their phones like, that's not true. I'm like, go do the Google. That's true. So, we are very conservative when it comes to a lot of things. While people are being savages towards us, we're like, we're just going to accept it. But we are as Yvette said on her video the other day, we're post-ADOS. We're like, hold on, we see the con game. We see what y'all trying to do. Nah, I don't think we're going to be too let me clutch my pearls and be conservative. I think there's a turn of, turning the switch down. That's something I'm not going to rock with.
Okay. So I see that D-Ray and Sean King has been going at it. You got anything to say about that?
So that's interesting. So like you have said, it's the battle of the butter biscuit crew. I never trusted either one because I felt like it was always this clout chasing. I'm going to get the bag chasing. Especially, I can't even say either or. I would say both of them. Especially like with D-Ray with this doggone vest. Like, take the damn vest off. It's getting tiring. And when you start seeing people climbing up in the quote-unquote, social justice realm, you better watch out because they're trying to tell you who's going to be your leader. So when you start seeing black folks climbing up this rank, it's like, oh, they're trying to tell us this person's going to be your leader. And so they're going back and forth. Y'all both are fine.
It's amazing that you said that because I remember about a month ago, I think I was watching something on YouTube with Tariq Nasheed. Shout out to him because he's like, he be on it.
Oh, yeah.
And,
yes, you
do. And they changed the word on us. It used to be racial injustice. Now it's called social injustice.
Right.
Yeah, and social injustice, that entails a little bit of everything. Racial injustice is more specific towards, listen, historically this country has been, unjust to their black citizens, plain and simple. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Let me see. Where else? This was like a good conversation. I'm glad that I was able to share some things. I also just want people to know, like, hey, if you're doing the advocacy work, if you're just doing the work, just make sure that you are protecting yourself. You're protecting your mental health and your self-care. It's not going to, hopefully you do get reparations and, stop saying, oh, it's never going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. So, that's my tidbit of my last words I have to say.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate everything. And we'll keep in touch with you. And, we'll go from here.
Yes, thank you.